Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1219B, and today's date is March 3rd, 2017, and the title of the episode is Central Bankers and the Deep State Move Forward with an Internet Kill Switch. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we can see that the deep state, the establishment, the central bankers, they are pushing their agenda like never before. Now, we know as we go back in time, before the elections, during the elections, right after the elections, they tried all different ways to delegitimize Trump. And they tried to make it look like, well, the elections really didn't happen, and Trump really is not the president. And that completely all failed. I mean, they did the cyber attacking by Russia. Russia was interfering with the elections, that the electors needed to be briefed on the cyber attacks, that Trump had relations with Russia, he was talking to Russia, and it just went on and on and on. And what's very interesting, after Trump had his speech, we saw right afterwards, and I think there was even a poll on CNN, that 70% of individuals said they feel a lot better with Trump right now. And they really couldn't skew it or do anything to it. And we can see right now that this witch hunt that they're on is kind of like a distraction to reset everything back the way they want it. Because remember, those in power have lost their power, and they want it back. So what are they doing? Well, they're doing exactly what we thought they were going to do. They're pushing their agenda to remove Trump. And we can see that they're on a witch hunt. It reminds me of the McCarthyism back in the 50s, when Senator Joseph McCarthy led a hunt for a purported communist in the U.S. government. And of course, it involved unfounded accusations. Isn't that what we're seeing today? The same exact thing? And remember, all the sources are anonymous. There's no proof whatsoever. But you have to remember, they don't need proof. They just need the headlines. They just need the propaganda. Because what we're seeing right now is they're saying that these individuals are guilty first without proof. And then they have to prove their innocence, instead of the other way around, where they're innocent and they have to prove their guilt. Because right now, they have shown no proof whatsoever. Everything that they're bringing up is not proof of anything. We already know Nunes says there's no connection between Trump and Russia. We already know that the FBI is saying that they have no information or anything that Russia interfered with the elections. And at this point, this is just a witch hunt. And Russia is even out there saying that, yes, this is a witch hunt, and they're just going after the administration. And this is just going to get worse as time goes on, just like we thought. Now, they're going through phase 1, where they're going through the legal process. Let's find something on Trump or one of his administration staff, and let's go through the process of delegitimizing, accusing, and making connections. Now, so far, they can't make any connections, but they're going to try to use this and go through the legal process to impeach Trump. This is phase 1. Phase 2, if that doesn't work, I wouldn't be surprised if they scare Trump. And what I mean by that is they try to assassinate, but don't assassinate him. Give him the scare of his life to make him go along with what they want. Now, this might be on his life or maybe his family's life. This is how desperate they're going to get, because once the legal avenue goes absolutely nowhere, they're going to be very, very desperate. And they will try to scare him to see if they can bring him in line. And if that doesn't work, they will most likely go to the next level. And we're going to see this play out throughout this whole entire year. Now, Trump, he's trying to show how ridiculous all this is. He tweeted a picture of Chuck Schumer, and Putin. They're eating a donut. This was taken back in 2003. And he was out there saying, look at this. Schumer is with Russian President Putin. We should call for an immediate investigation. He met with a Russian. And we can see at this point, Schumer actually tweeted back saying, well, this photo was taken back in 2003 and it was out in the public. But the point of the whole entire thing was, just because you're with someone who's Russian doesn't mean there's an investigation. And with Sessions, he meets with a lot of individuals because he was on the U.S. Arms Committee, and he meets with ambassadors. Now, is it always in public? No. Again, we don't know what Schumer did with Putin in private. Yeah, they show him eating a donut. That was staged. But he's trying to show everyone how ridiculous this is. Because if you really want to go back in time and you really want to call each individual up of who they met in private without being in a public photograph, believe me, you're going to see a lot of individuals. Now, CNN has taken this even further. And we know that CNN is fake news, Washington Post, fake news. And they're trying to say that the Russian ambassador is one of Russia's top spies in Washington. What is their proof? They don't have any. How did they arrive at this conclusion? They were told this by an unnamed current and former senior U.S. government official. In other words, this is yet another example of fake news story with groundbreaking allegations and zero evidence. This is what they're doing right now because propaganda does not need facts, evidence to back it up. Remember, in 2013, there was a law passed that, yes, the U.S. government, the corporate media, can use propaganda on the American people. And they just want the headlines out there. They just want people to see it. Because most of the people will never ask for facts. They will never say, is this true or not? If the corporate media is saying it, it must be true. But the alternative media right now is breaking it down and saying, you know something? Let's see the proof. Let's see the facts. And so far, everything that we've delved into, we found absolutely nothing. Now, Trey Gowdy said something very interesting. He appeared on Fox's First 100 Days. And he was in a closed-door briefing earlier with FBI Director James Comey concerning the agency's investigation into claims of Russian interference in the 2016 election. And Gowdy was out there saying that he's never heard a federal law enforcement agent give, with that degree of particularity and detail, an update of an inquiry. And he says, you may recall I was a federal prosecutor for 6 years. I've talked to lots of FBI agents. He went so far beyond what any other administration official has ever done, whether it's Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, or his predecessor Robert Mueller. They never gave us this level of detail and specificity. Comey bent over backwards to do this. When pressed on whether or not FBI Director Comey revealed any new information in light of John Brennan or James Clapper finding no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, Gowdy said, I will tell you this. To the extent people are relying on the media reports, whether it's the New York Times or the Washington Post, upon which to base their factual assertions, I would tell them to be very, very careful. I'm not going to say any more than that, other than to say that the person leading the investigation on behalf of the U.S. government, the head of the FBI, listen to what he has to say. And right now, they have found no connections whatsoever in regards to Russia, Trump. Nothing at all. And to remind everyone, whoever is leaking any of this information from the White House, that is against the law. And we can see right now, Gowdy, he is advising people who rely on the leaks to be very, very careful in doing so, and he can't say any more. And it looks like they might be on to whoever is doing this. Now, we know most likely this is in connection with Obama, with the deep state, with Soros, trying to push their agenda, because as we know, Obama, Eric Holder, they are getting together right now to push their agenda. I mean, think about what just happened after Trump took the White House. Obama was supposed to move back to Hawaii, but instead he decided to stay in Washington, D.C. to purchase a home less than 2 miles from the White House. I mean, many of his former staff members are either working directly with him or working for his political organization, Organizing for Action. And a particular concern is the fact that Valerie Jarrett has actually moved into Obama's $5 million home, which many are referring to as Obama's anti-Trump command center. Now, Obama's goal, and this is according to a close family friend, is to oust Trump from the presidency either by forcing his resignation or through his impeachment. And Obama is being aided in his political crusade by his longtime friend, Valerie Jarrett. And we can see that former Attorney General Eric Holder says Barack Obama is rested and ready to roll now. He's ready to go after Trump. Now, the question is, why is he doing it? What is he nervous about? And what's the agenda? Now, one thing that Obama might be worried about is this new investigation. Now, we mentioned this briefly yesterday about the slush fund in the Department of Justice. And the Obama administration, well, it looks like they're under investigation after it was revealed that billions of dollars of taxpayer money was funneled into a shadowy Department of Justice slush fund and then distributed to a number of left-wing activist groups. Now, the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee, well, they are looking at this and looking at how Obama handed out billions of dollars to different groups. And we know that Mike Huckabee, the former governor of Arkansas, said the revelations leave Obama in very hot water. If the House Judiciary Committee takes this inquiry all the way, criminal charges will be filed. So what did he do with this money? What groups received this? Well, we know the National Urban League, they received it. The National Community Reinvestment Coalition has received this money. The National Council of La Raza, this is a Latino advocacy organization that advocates in favor of progressive policy changes, including immigration reform. And we can see that these organizations altogether looks like he's going towards getting votes for his party. Because we see at this point that he was taking this money and using it for his own benefit, his party's own benefit, and this is not something that he should be doing. This is why there's an investigation. Now, this might be just the surface of the entire thing, because we know that there's probably a lot more underneath this, because they are working very, very hard to remove Jeff Sessions from his post. And to push this hard to remove someone from his post, they must be worried about information being discovered. Now, in past reports, we talked about an internet kill switch. We know that DHS has created an internet kill switch where they can just shut down the internet. And we also know there's different types of internet kill switches where they can block certain things when people say certain things. And out in the EU Parliament has granted its president the right to cut the live broadcast of any hate speech or acts in the chamber using an internet kill switch. Now, press freedom organizations, they have raised concerns about censorship after members of the European Parliament approved extraordinary measures to combat hate speech. But is it really against hate speech? Or do they just want to block out certain things that are being said? Because we can see right now that gives them a lot of control of just shutting down anything. Now, critics say the rules are vaguely worded and could be manipulated or used as a tool of censorship. Well, we see many of the social media platforms doing the same thing. They use algorithms. Facebook, Twitter, Google. And these algorithms ban certain individuals if these social media systems don't like what they're saying. And we also know there's algorithms to say, this is fake news. I mean, it could be real news, but the fact-checking systems they use, well, that's tied into the CIA, Soros, and certain other individuals where they control the narrative of the story. And if it doesn't, jive with their narrative, guess what? You're shut down. And we can see there's different levels of the internet kill switch. And we can see that the social media platforms, we can see that the EU, they're very worried about what people are going to say. They're very worried about, what is it called? Free speech. And they want to shut people down. I mean, look what's happening in France with Marine Le Pen. Look what's happening in Germany with Angela Merkel, where she's shutting down any type of fake news, fining any type of news that's coming out in social platforms that are allowing this. They're fining them. What we can see right now is that the establishment, they are very nervous. They're very nervous about losing control. And whenever a system is coming down and people are standing up, I mean, just think about what's happening here. The people are out there saying, we don't want these individuals running our system. We don't want to be part of the EU, the central banking system. Here in the United States, we don't want to be part of the globalist system. And if more people knew about the Federal Reserve, believe me, they'd be like, we don't want to be part of the Federal Reserve either. And these people are out there and they're outspoken saying, we don't want any of this. Now, the system is coming down because these globalists ran it into the ground, and they know this. And they've been in control for a very long time. They do not want to give up control. When a system is dying, they want to hold on to the control to the end because they want to reshape everything on the other side. And we see right now, this is what's happening. The people are speaking up. They don't want to relinquish their control. So they were fighting all of it. They're using propaganda. They're censoring. They're using an internet kill switch. They're doing everything they possibly can to shut people down. This is what dictators do. Now, out in Malaysia, the Malaysian authorities, they have deported the only North Korean detained in the killing of the half-brother of Kim Jong-un. They said, well, we really don't have any evidence against this North Korean, so we're just going to have to release him and send him back to North Korea. And he was held by the authorities, but they couldn't find anything on him whatsoever. So there was nothing there at all. We see Kiev forces, they have shot down an OSCE drone over the Donetsk water filtration system. And we can see that the operational commander reported that the Kiev side shot the drone intentionally to prevent the OSCE from inspecting the area and seeing what's really going on there. Now, what is happening out in Ukraine is that things are really starting to heat up at this point. The Soros-backed groups in Ukraine, they have organized and blocked a coal shipment to Kiev. Now, this is not a small shutdown by any means. This is 74,000 cargo cars of coal, and they have blocked them from leaving the southeastern area going to Kiev. Now, why would he do this? What would be the purpose of doing this? Well, to create an incident, to create a problem in the region. Now, of course, they're not out there saying it's Soros. They're saying these are certain individuals that are doing this, but we can see this is a provocation. They want Poroshenko to do something. It's not hurting the southeastern people. It's going to be hurting the people in Kiev. So what they're doing right now is they're trying to push Poroshenko into escalating this war. Now, in the United States, there is a House bill right now that would slash U.S. lethal military aid to Ukraine by half right now. And it looks like that the United States is kind of separating themselves from what is going on in Ukraine. And Poroshenko knew this was going to happen. Just like Trump decided to stop the funding of the moderate rebels in Syria. He gave the order to the CIA to stop the funding there. And we can see right now that Poroshenko at this point has no alternative but to start a war. And the deep state, the establishment, they realize they need to push Poroshenko into this. And we can see this is why this is happening. So this is a place where we need to continually watch. Now, something very interesting just happened. Sweden, they have imposed a military draft. Now, they're citing that it's because of Russia, because of the threat of Russia. And they have abandoned the practice of military conscription for men. And for 7 years, they haven't drafted anyone. Now, they're going to be drafting both men and women. They say their goal is 13,000 called up per year, with 4,000 of them receiving training. Why? Because Russian aggression. And when you really think about it, how is 4,000 additional trained troops going to make a huge difference militarily? Particularly when Sweden and Russia aren't on particular bad terms. But it looks like they're preparing for something. Do they know something we don't? We see Russia is telling the Libyan prime minister, well, Russia is ready to talk to both sides, well, to many different sides, and come to an agreement to bring the country together. So they're going to be talking to Haftar, they're going to be talking to the UN-backed government, which is completely imploding right now, and to other factions trying to work out some type of deal. We see the Red Cross says that there were chemical weapons used in Mosul. Well, it must have been Assad. Well, no, it wasn't Assad because this was in Iraq. And guess who it was by? It was the Islamic State. I mean, when you start putting the pieces together, you start to realize that the terrorist groups have been using chemical weapons all along. But when there's a chemical attack in Syria, it couldn't have been the paid mercenaries. It couldn't be the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, the moderate rebels. It had to be Assad. But everywhere else in the world where there's chemical weapons being used, it's always by the Islamic State or Al-Qaeda, except in Syria, which makes no sense whatsoever. And this is how you know this is fake, phony, and false. Now, we can see right now that the Syrian government, they are pushing and liberating many of the villages in Aleppo. At least 97 were liberated in the last 50 days. And we can see right now the United States government central bankers, those who want a war in this area, well, it's not going to happen. And what we're seeing right now is throughout the Middle East, the United States government central bankers, they've lost control of it. And we see that many of the people of these countries, they're going to be taking back their country. And as they take back their countries, they're going to dump the dollar. They're not going to use it on their oil sales. And this is what the central banks have been trying to prop up for a very long time. And they know that they only have a certain period of time before the whole thing just collapses. And this is why they are pushing their agenda so hard. This is why they want all eyes off of them, because they are responsible for this entire economy coming down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.